claimed by the billionaire. Marry me or lose everything. A dangerous bargain sealed at midnight. The fluorescent lights of Sacred Heart Children's Hospital buzzed overhead as Maya Rodriguez clutched the crumpled medical bills in her trembling hands. $300,000. The numbers blurred through her tears as she sat in the empty waiting room at 11:47 p.m., her 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, sleeping fitfully in the pediatric wing just down the hall. "Mrs. Rodriguez?" The soft voice of Dr. Patterson made her look up. The kind woman's face showed the strain of delivering bad news too many times. "I'm sorry, but without the payment for Sophia's heart surgery scheduled for next week, we'll have to—" "Please." Maya's voice cracked. "There has to be something. Some program, some way to— I've exhausted every option. Medicaid, charity care, payment plans. Without a guarantor or significant down payment, the hospital board won't authorize the procedure." Maya's world tilted. 3 jobs, cleaning offices at night, waitressing at Pedro's diner during lunch shifts, and weekend housekeeping, still weren't enough. Not for this. Not for her baby girl's life. "How long do I have?" she whispered. 48 hours to secure funding, or we'll need to discharge Sophia and refer her to County General for comfort care. The euphemism hit like a physical blow. Comfort care. They were giving up on her daughter. As Dr. Patterson's footsteps faded down the sterile hallway, Maya buried her face in her hands. The smell of industrial disinfectant couldn't mask the fear that had been her constant companion for months, ever since Sophia's fainting spell at school revealed the defect in her tiny heart. "Mama?" Sophia's weak voice drifted from the doorway. Despite the late hour, her daughter was awake, her small frame dwarfed by the hospital gown covered in cheerful cartoon bears that mocked the gravity of their situation. "Hey, mija." Maya quickly wiped her eyes and forced a smile. "You should be sleeping." "I heard the doctor. Are we going home?" Sophia's dark eyes held a wisdom no 8-year-old should possess. She'd heard enough hushed conversations, seen enough worried faces to understand more than Maya wished. "We're figuring things out, sweetheart." Maya opened her arms and Sophia climbed into her lap, so light it made Maya's chest ache. "Remember what I always tell you?" "Rodriguez women are fighters," Sophia recited, her voice gaining strength. "That's right, we don't give up." But even as she held her daughter, Maya felt the crushing weight of impossible mathematics. She'd already borrowed against everything. Her beat-up Honda Civic, her mother's wedding ring, the small life insurance policy from her father's death 5 years ago. Her credit cards were maxed out, and her sister Carmen had already stretched herself thin helping with medical bills. At midnight exactly, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ms. Rodriguez, I have a proposition that could solve your daughter's medical situation. Meet me in the hospital parking garage, level B2, space 47. Come alone. A. Blackwell." Every instinct screamed danger, but desperation made cowards of careful people. Maya kissed Sophia's forehead and tucked her back into bed. "I'll be right back. Okay. Just getting some air." The parking garage was eerily quiet at this hour. Maya's sneakers echoed off concrete as she descended to B2, her phone's flashlight cutting through shadows. Space 47 held a black Bentley that probably cost more than her annual salary. The driver's window lowered silently, revealing a man who looked to be in his mid-30s with sharp cheekbones and steel-gray eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of her appearance. His perfectly tailored suit suggested money. Serious money. "Ms. Rodriguez, I'm Alexander Blackwell." His voice carried the crisp authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Get in." "I don't think so." Maya stayed rooted to the spot. "Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying." A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. "I'm not selling anything. I'm offering to pay for your daughter's surgery. All of it. The experimental procedure at Johns Hopkins, the post-operative care, everything. Maya's knees nearly buckled. What's the catch? Marriage. He said it like he was ordering coffee. A contractual arrangement, 2 years, with specific terms and conditions. You're insane. I'm practical. Alexander stepped out of the car, his full height imposing even in the dim garage lighting. I need a wife for business reasons. Inheritance requirements from my grandfather's will. You need $300,000 immediately. We both get what we need. Maya's mind reeled. You could marry anyone. Models, socialites, whoever you want. They would want something real. Emotion. Love. He said the word like it tasted bitter. I don't have time for complications. You're desperate enough to agree to a purely business arrangement, and smart enough not to develop inconvenient feelings. The casual cruelty of his assessment stung, but Maya couldn't deny its accuracy. Even if I were crazy enough to consider this, why me? How do you even know about Sophia? I make it my business to know things. Your situation came to my attention through hospital networks. You're perfect for my needs, motivated, with limited options, and from a world completely separate from mine. This is insane. But even as Maya said it, she found herself calculating. Sophia's surgery, the recovery time, the follow-up care. 47 minutes until your deadline passes, Alexander said, checking his watch. I can have the hospital administration called and the surgery scheduled for tomorrow morning, or you can walk away and hope for a miracle. Maya closed her eyes, seeing Sophia's face, feeling the fragile bird beat of her daughter's heart against her chest during their bedtime hugs. What would be required of me? Public appearances as needed, living in my penthouse apartment, maintaining the facade of a relationship for business associates and family. No media interviews about our arrangement. After 2 years, quiet divorce, generous settlement, and you disappear from my life permanently. And Sophia would live with us, private tutors, best medical care, whatever she needs. His expression softened almost imperceptibly. I'm not a monster, Ms. Rodriguez. I won't harm a child to get what I want. Maya opened her eyes to find him watching her with unsettling intensity. I need to think about this. You have 5 minutes. The calculated coldness should have sent her running, but desperation had its own logic. Sophia needed this surgery. This man could provide it. Everything else was just details to survive. If I agree, when would this happen? Tonight. I have a judge who owes me favors. We can be married within the hour, paperwork filed, and your daughter in surgery by 8 a.m. Maya's phone buzzed with another text. Dr. Patterson, calling emergency meeting 6 a.m. Prepare Sophia for discharge. Nurse station. Her daughter's time was up. I'll do it. Chapter 2. Crossing into Another World. The wedding took place in Judge Morrison's private study at 1:30 a.m., witnessed by Alexander's lawyer and a court clerk who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Maya still wore her jeans and faded sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, while Alexander looked like he was closing a business deal, which she supposed he was. By the power vested in me by the state of New York, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Judge Morrison's words felt surreal, like dialogue from someone else's life. Alexander slipped a simple platinum band onto Maya's finger. Perfectly sized, she noticed with unease. How long had he been planning this? You may kiss the bride, the judge added automatically. Alexander's eyes met Maya's, a silent question in their depths. She nodded slightly, and his lips brushed hers with clinical precision. Enough to satisfy the legal requirement, nothing more. Within an hour, the hospital administration had been contacted, Sophia's surgery approved and moved to the morning schedule, and Maya found herself signing more documents than she'd seen in her lifetime. Alexander's efficiency was terrifying in its thoroughness. This is your copy. His lawyer, a sharp-faced woman named Patricia Webb, said as she handed Maya a folder thick with papers. Medical power of attorney for Sophia, your new bank account information, credit cards, and household staff contact numbers. Maya stared at the black American Express card like it might bite her. Household staff? Housekeeper twice weekly, personal shopper as needed, driver when required. Alexander's voice was matter-of-fact. You'll need appropriate clothing for public appearances. I have clothes. Patricia's perfectly painted lips twitched. Mr. Blackwell moves in certain social circles, charity galas, business dinners, gallery openings. Your current wardrobe won't suffice. Maya bristled at the dismissive tone, but exhaustion and fear for Sophia overwhelmed her pride. Fine. Whatever. By 3 a.m., they were back at the hospital. Sophia was being prepped for surgery, her small hand clutching Maya's as the anesthesiologist explained the procedure. "Mama, who's that?" Sophia whispered, noticing Alexander standing near the window in her hospital room. That's Alexander. He's helping us with the hospital bills." Sophia studied him with the frank curiosity of childhood. "Are you rich?" "Very," Alexander answered without hesitation. "Cool. Do you have a swimming pool?" "3 of them." Sophia's eyes widened. "Can I see them?" "After you get better." His voice gentled in a way Maya hadn't expected. "Focus on being strong for your surgery first." As they wheeled Sophia toward the operating room, she called out, "Mama, don't forget to pack my stuffed elephant." Maya's composure finally cracked. She sank into a waiting room chair and sobbed. For her fear, her desperation, the surreal turn her life had taken in the space of 6 hours. A cup of coffee appeared in front of her. Alexander sat in the adjacent chair, his earlier coldness replaced by something approaching human sympathy. "She'll be fine," he said quietly. "Dr. Harrison is the best pediatric cardiac surgeon on the East Coast. I've made sure of it." Maya looked up at him through tear-blurred eyes. "Why are you doing this? Really, the inheritance thing. There has to be more to it." Alexander was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice carried an old pain. "My grandfather built Blackwell Industries from nothing. When he died, he left controlling interest to me with one condition. I had to be married by my 35th birthday, or the company goes to my cousin Trevor." His jaw tightened. Trevor would destroy everything my grandfather worked for within a year. "When's your birthday?" 6 weeks ago." Maya's eyes widened. "You mean, I'm already past the deadline, but there's a loophole. If I can prove I was actively seeking marriage in good faith, the board will grant a 6-month extension. Your marriage, your daughter's medical situation. It provides the narrative they need. So you're using us. We're using each other." His honesty was brutal but refreshing after years of people sugarcoating hard truths. "The difference is, I'm not pretending it's anything else." Before Maya could respond, Dr. Harrison appeared in surgical scrubs, his face professionally calm but encouraging. The surgery went perfectly. Sophia's heart is functioning normally, and all the repair work was successful. She'll need several days of recovery, but the prognosis is excellent. Maya burst into fresh tears, this time from relief so overwhelming she felt dizzy. Alexander's hand briefly touched her shoulder, a surprisingly gentle gesture. "Can I see her?" "She's in recovery now. Give her another hour to wake up properly." As Dr. Harrison left, Maya turned to Alexander. "Thank you. Whatever this costs me, whatever I have to do. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," he said, but his tone wasn't unkind. "Your life is about to change dramatically. The next 2 years won't be easy." Chapter 3. New Worlds Collide. Maya's first glimpse of Alexander's penthouse came at sunset 3 days later, after Sophia had been cleared for discharge. The elevator opened directly into the apartment, 40 floors above Manhattan's Upper East Side, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Central Park. "Holy cow," Sophia breathed, still weak from surgery but alert enough to be amazed. "Do you live in the sky?" Alexander's mouth twitched in what might have been amusement. "Something like that." The space was exactly what Maya had expected. All clean lines, expensive art, and furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars. What she hadn't expected was how cold it felt, like a museum display of wealth rather than a home. "Your rooms are this way," Alexander said, leading them down a hallway lined with abstract paintings that made Maya's eyes hurt. He opened a door to reveal a suite that was larger than their entire apartment in Queens. "Sophia's room is connected through here." Sophia's new bedroom looked like something from a fairy tale. Canopy bed, built-in bookshelves, a window seat overlooking the park. Sophia climbed onto the bed with careful movements, her post-surgical restrictions still limiting her mobility. "There's a playroom down the hall," Alexander added, "and tutors will start next week to help you catch up on schoolwork." "Do I have to go to a new school?" Sophia asked, sudden anxiety creeping into her voice. Maya started to answer, but Alexander spoke first. "Not if you don't want to. We can arrange for you to video chat with your friends at your old school, and the tutors can coordinate with your teachers there." The thoughtfulness of this surprised Maya. She'd assumed he would want to erase their old life completely. "Can Maria visit? She's my best friend." "Of course." That evening, after Sophia had fallen asleep surrounded by more toys than she'd ever owned, Maya found Alexander in what he called his office, a room dominated by multiple monitors and the kind of technology that probably ran small countries. "We need to establish some ground rules," he said without looking up from his computer. Maya sat in the leather chair across from his desk, feeling like a child called to the principal's office. "Such as?" "Public appearances. We'll need to be seen together regularly. Dinners, cultural events, charity functions. I'll have Patricia schedule them and arrange appropriate clothing." "I can dress myself." "Not for these events, you can't." He finally looked at her directly. "I'm not trying to insult you, Maya, but there's a difference between dressing for your life and dressing for mine. People will be watching, judging, looking for reasons to dismiss or attack you." The casual way he said her name sent an unexpected flutter through her chest. "Attack me? How?" "You're not from their world. They'll see you as a threat, an outsider who doesn't belong. Some will try to make you feel small, test your confidence, find your weaknesses." Sounds delightful. It's not, but it's temporary. Alexander leaned back in his chair, studying her. "The good news is, you're stronger than you think. Anyone who works 3 jobs and raises a child alone while dealing with medical crises. You have backbone. You'll need it." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks at what sounded almost like a compliment. "What about here? In private?" "We maintain separate lives. I'm usually gone by 7 a.m. and rarely home before 9 p.m. Weekends I often travel for business. You're free to use the apartment as you wish. Take Sophia anywhere you want to go. The staff will accommodate whatever you need." "Staff?" "Mrs. Chen handles housekeeping. Marcus is our driver when needed. The building has 24-hour concierge and security. Sophia will never be unsupervised." The casual mention of their daughter's safety in his plans created another unexpected flutter. "And us? I mean, the marriage part." Alexander's expression became unreadable. "What about it? Do you expect intimacy?" "No." The answer came quickly, almost sharply. "This is business, nothing more." Maya nodded, surprised by a faint stab of something that might have been disappointment, which was ridiculous. The last thing she needed was to complicate this arrangement with attraction to a man who saw her as a convenient solution to his problems. "Good," she said, perhaps too firmly. That makes things simpler. Indeed it does. But as Alexander returned to his work, Maya caught him watching her reflection in his computer screen, and she wondered if things would be as simple as either of them hoped. Chapter 4. Society's Judgment. Maya's first public appearance as Mrs. Blackwell was a charity gala for children's literacy at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Patricia had delivered 3 potential dresses, each more expensive than Maya's monthly salary used to be. "The navy," Alexander said when she emerged from her dressing room. His eyes swept over her professionally, like he was evaluating a business presentation. "It's conservative enough not to invite gossip, but well cut enough to show you belong here." Maya smoothed the silk fabric nervously. "I feel like I'm playing dress-up." "You'll get used to it." He adjusted his cufflinks with practiced ease. "Remember, we've been married 3 months. We met when I visited the diner where you work. A lunch meeting ran long. I stayed for coffee, we talked. Simple backstory, easy to remember." "And fell madly in love?" Maya couldn't keep the sarcasm from her voice. "Attracted to each other despite different backgrounds. Love is a strong word." His tone suggested love was also an uncomfortable word. The gala was exactly as intimidating as Maya had feared. The museum's great hall glittered with Manhattan's social elite, women dripping in jewelry that could fund small countries, men whose casual conversations involved stock options and private jets. Alexander moved through the crowd with the ease of someone born to this world, his hand resting lightly on Maya's lower back as he introduced her to an endless parade of names she'd never remember. "Alexander, darling." A woman with perfectly sculpted cheekbones and white blonde hair approached, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "You've been hiding from us." "Caroline." Alexander's voice was politely neutral. "Maya, this is Caroline Ashworth. Caroline, my wife, Maya." Caroline's blue eyes swept over Maya with undisguised assessment, taking in every detail from her simple jewelry to her discount store manicure. "How lovely," Caroline purred. "Alexander, you didn't mention your wife was so refreshingly different." The word different dripped with condescension, but Maya had dealt with difficult customers and entitled employers for years. She smiled sweetly. "Different can be good, can't it? I imagine it gets boring when everyone looks and sounds exactly the same." Caroline's smile froze. "I'm sure. Tell me, where did you attend school?" "Queens Community College, part-time while working full-time." Maya's chin lifted slightly. "Not as prestigious as wherever you went, I'm sure, but it taught me to appreciate what I earn." "How admirable." The frost in Caroline's voice could have chilled champagne. "And you have a daughter, I hear?" "Sophia. She's 8. From a previous relationship." The question was designed to wound, to expose Maya as damaged goods in this glittering world. But before Maya could respond, Alexander's voice cut through the tension like steel. "Sophia is Maya's daughter, which makes her family." His tone held a warning that made Caroline step back slightly. "I'm sure you understand how important family is, Caroline." The rebuke was subtle but unmistakable. Caroline's smile became even more brittle. "Of course. How wonderful that you've embraced such modern arrangements." She glanced around the room. "I simply must speak to the Vanderbilts. Lovely meeting you, Michelle." "Maya," Maya corrected quietly, but Caroline was already gliding away. "Don't let her rattle you," Alexander murmured. "Caroline's bitter because she's been trying to marry money for 10 years without success. You represent everything she can't achieve through manipulation." "What's that?" "Authenticity." The unexpected compliment caught Maya off guard, but before she could process it, another couple approached. This time, genuinely warm introductions to Alexander's business partner David and his wife Jennifer, who immediately put Maya at ease with questions about Sophia and genuine interest in her answers. As the evening progressed, Maya began to see the patterns Alexander had warned her about. Some people, like the Hendersons, welcomed her with honest curiosity and kindness. Others, like Caroline's circle, treated her with barely concealed disdain or patronizing sympathy for Alexander's obvious lapse in judgment. During dinner, seated between Alexander and a hedge fund manager's wife, who kept explaining basic concepts as if Maya were intellectually challenged, she caught fragments of conversation from nearby tables. Can't believe Alexander married the help. Obvious gold digger situation. That poor little girl. What kind of environment? Maya's fork trembled slightly, but she forced herself to keep eating, to keep smiling, to not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Alexander noticed. His hand covered hers briefly under the table, a gesture that could have been casual affection to observers, but Maya felt the steadying strength in his fingers. "Breathe," he murmured. "They're not worth your distress." "Easy for you to say. They're not calling you a gold digger." "No, they're calling me an idiot who's being manipulated by a beautiful woman." His voice held dry humor. "I can live with that assessment." He'd called her beautiful. Maya's cheeks warmed despite herself. After dinner, as they mingled during the auction portion of the evening, Maya excused herself to find the ladies' room. The marble-appointed space was mercifully empty until Caroline and two other women entered, their voices carrying clearly in the acoustically perfect room. "I give it 6 months," one woman said. "Alexander's too smart to be fooled permanently." "She's clever, though," Caroline replied, using the sick child angle. Men are so susceptible to damsel in distress scenarios. "The daughter's actually quite sweet," the third woman added. "I met her at the pediatric wing benefit last month. Polite, articulate for her age." "Children are adaptable," Caroline said dismissively. "It's the mother who's the problem. She doesn't understand that this world requires more than luck and desperation." Maya emerged from the stall, and all three women froze. The silence stretched uncomfortably until Maya spoke, her voice perfectly calm. "You're right about one thing, Caroline. I don't understand this world. Where I come from, people don't smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. They're honest about their feelings." She washed her hands deliberately. "But I'm learning. Tonight has been very educational." Caroline's face flushed. "I didn't mean—" "You meant exactly what you said." Maya dried her hands and turned to face them fully. "Here's what you should understand about me. I didn't choose this situation because I wanted Alexander's money. I chose it because my daughter needed heart surgery, and he offered a way to save her life. Everything else, this dress, this event, your approval, is just details I'm willing to endure." She moved toward the door, then paused. "My daughter is recovering beautifully, by the way. Thanks for asking." Maya left them in stunned silence and returned to the gala, her head high and her resolve stronger than when she'd arrived. Alexander took one look at her face and raised an eyebrow. "Trouble?" "Nothing I can't handle." His smile was the first genuine one she'd seen from him all evening. "I believe that." As they left the museum that night, Maya realized she'd passed some kind of test, not just with Alexander's social circle, but with herself. She was stronger than she'd known, and she wouldn't let anyone make her feel small again. But she also realized that Alexander's world was more complex than she'd understood. Some people, like David and Jennifer, could become genuine friends. Others, like Caroline, would be ongoing adversaries. And Alexander himself remained the biggest mystery of all, capable of moments of unexpected warmth, followed by returns to professional distance that left her constantly off balance. The next 2 years, Maya thought as they rode home in silence, were going to be very interesting indeed. Chapter 5. Cracks in the Facade. 6 weeks into their arrangement, Maya discovered that Alexander Blackwell was an insomniac. She'd gotten up at 2 a.m. to check on Sophia, who'd been having occasional nightmares since the surgery. Nothing serious, just the lingering effects of trauma and change. On her way back to her room, she noticed light spilling from under Alexander's office door. Through the crack, she could see him at his desk, still in his dress shirt and trousers from whatever business dinner he'd attended that evening, his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. Multiple monitors glowed with financial data, and he was rubbing his temples like he had a headache. Maya hesitated, then knocked softly. "Come in." She pushed the door open. "I saw the light. Are you okay?" Alexander looked up, his expression guarded. "Fine. Just work." "It's 2 a.m. I'm aware of the time." Maya studied his face, noting the tension lines around his eyes, the way his shoulders held stress like armor. "When's the last time you slept?" "I sleep. Real sleep. More than a few hours." Alexander leaned back in his chair, watching her with those penetrating gray eyes. "Why do you care?" It was a fair question. Maya wasn't sure of the answer herself. "Because... I don't know. You look exhausted. And you did save Sophia's life, so I guess I feel like I should return the favor." "By what? Tucking me into bed?" His tone was mildly mocking, but not cruel. "By making you some tea and telling you that whatever's keeping you awake probably won't be solved by staring at screens all night." Alexander was quiet for a moment. Then he gestured to the chair across from his desk. "The Tokyo markets are crashing. If I don't find a way to stabilize our Asian holdings by morning, we could lose $40 million. Maya sat down, feeling out of her depth but oddly committed now. "Okay, what are your options?" "Sell everything and cut our losses. Or double down and hope the market recovers. Those can't be the only choices." "They're not." Alexander's fingers drummed against his desk. "There's a third option. Partner with Yamamoto Industries. They have the infrastructure to weather this storm, but they want controlling interest in our Tokyo operations. And that's bad because my grandfather spent 20 years building those operations. Giving them up feels like betraying everything he worked for." Maya heard the pain in his voice, the way he talked about his grandfather with reverence and guilt. "Tell me about him." Alexander looked surprised by the request. "Why?" "Because you loved him, and because maybe talking about it will help you figure out what he'd actually want you to do." For a moment, Maya thought he'd shut down the conversation. Then Alexander's expression softened slightly. His name was William Blackwell. Started with nothing, son of a janitor in Detroit. Worked his way through college, built his first company from scratch, lost everything in the recession of '82, then built it all back, bigger and better. Alexander's voice carried admiration and something deeper. He was the smartest man I ever knew, but he was also kind, generous. When I was 10, he told me that money was just a tool. What mattered was what you built with it and who you helped along the way. He sounds wonderful. He was. Alexander's jaw tightened. Which is why I can't let Trevor destroy everything. What would your grandfather do? In this situation, I mean. Alexander was quiet for so long, Maya thought he wouldn't answer. He'd partner with Yamamoto. He'd say that preserving jobs and maintaining stability was more important than pride or legacy. Then there's your answer. It's not that simple. Why not? Alexander stood and walked to the windows, his hands in his pockets as he stared out at the city lights. Because once I give up control of the Tokyo operations, what's next? How many pieces of his legacy do I sacrifice to keep the whole thing intact? Maya joined him at the window. From 40 floors up, Manhattan looked like a constellation of possibilities, each light representing lives and dreams and struggles she couldn't even imagine. "My father was a mechanic," she said quietly. "He had a little shop in Queens, fixed cars for people who couldn't afford the big chain shops. Never made much money, but he was proud of what he did." She glanced at Alexander's profile. When he got sick, cancer, he had to sell the shop to pay for treatment. I was so angry at him. I thought he was giving up, abandoning his dream. What changed your mind? Sophia. When she was born, and I realized how much you'd sacrifice for someone you love, I understood. My father didn't sell his dream. He transformed it into something more important, making sure his family was taken care of. Alexander turned to look at her. You think I should partner with Yamamoto? I think you should do whatever keeps the people who depend on you safe and employed. The rest is just details. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of sleeplessness and difficult decisions settling between them. Thank you, Alexander said finally. For what? For reminding me what actually matters. Maya felt heat spread through her chest at the sincerity in his voice. Does this mean you'll try to get some sleep? Eventually. Now would be better. You can't make good decisions when you're exhausted. Alexander smiled, the first truly relaxed expression she'd seen from him. Are you always this bossy? Only when someone's being stupidly stubborn about taking care of themselves. I'm not used to being taken care of. The admission was quiet, almost vulnerable. Maya felt something shift in her chest, a dangerous softening toward this complicated man who'd saved her daughter, but seemed unable to save himself from his own driven nature. Well, get used to it. For the next 2 years, anyway. Alexander's eyes darkened slightly, and Maya realized they were standing closer than she'd intended. Close enough to see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes, close enough to notice that he smelled like expensive cologne and something uniquely masculine. Maya. His voice was rougher than usual. Yes. For a heartbeat, she thought he might kiss her. Really kiss her, not the perfunctory brush of lips from their wedding. The air between them crackled with unexpected tension, and Maya found herself swaying slightly toward him. Then Alexander stepped back, the moment broken. I should let you get some sleep, he said, his professional mask sliding back into place. Maya nodded, suddenly embarrassed by her own reaction. Right. Good night. Good night. But as she walked back to her room, Maya's heart was beating fast enough to remind her that their marriage might be fake, but her growing attraction to her husband was becoming dangerously real. And from the way Alexander had looked at her in those final seconds, she suspected the feeling might be mutual. Chapter 6. Unexpected Intimacies. The next morning brought autumn's first real chill to New York, and Maya woke to find Sophia's fever had spiked during the night. Nothing serious, just a minor cold that her post-surgery immune system was fighting harder than usual, but enough to require a day home from her tutoring sessions. Maya was curled up with Sophia on the living room sofa, reading Charlotte's Web aloud while Sophia dozed fitfully, when Alexander emerged from his office looking like he'd actually slept. How is she? He kept his voice low, not wanting to wake Sophia. Better. The fever broke about an hour ago. Maya brushed a strand of hair from Sophia's forehead. She'll be fine in a day or two. Alexander nodded, but he didn't leave. Instead, he sat in the chair across from them, watching Sophia sleep with an expression Maya couldn't quite read. I never thanked you, he said quietly, for last night, the advice about Yamamoto. Did it work out? We're finalizing the partnership agreement this afternoon. It's not what I wanted, but it's the right decision. Sophia stirred slightly and opened her eyes, blinking sleepily at Alexander. Hi. Hello there. How are you feeling? Sick, but Mama says I'll be better soon. Sophia's voice was hoarse but curious. Why aren't you at work? Alexander glanced at Maya, then back at Sophia. I wanted to make sure you were okay. That's nice. Sophia struggled to sit up, and Maya helped her, noting that her daughter's fever-flushed cheeks were already looking more normal. Will you read with us? Sophia, Alexander's busy. Maya started. Actually, I have a few minutes. Alexander moved to sit on the sofa next to Maya, close enough that she could feel the warmth from his body. Where are we in the story? Maya found herself hyper-aware of his presence as she continued reading about Wilbur the pig and Charlotte the spider. Alexander listened intently, occasionally asking Sophia questions that showed he was genuinely engaged with the story. When Maya reached the part where Charlotte dies, Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Why did Charlotte have to die? She was good. Alexander surprised Maya by answering seriously. Sometimes good people die, but that doesn't mean they're forgotten. Charlotte saved Wilbur, and he spent the rest of his life remembering her kindness. Like my papa, Sophia said thoughtfully. He died, but I still remember how he used to sing to me. Maya's throat tightened. Sophia rarely talked about her father, Maya's brief marriage to Carlos that had ended when he couldn't handle the responsibility of fatherhood. What did he sing? Alexander asked gently. La Llorona. It's a Mexican song. Mama knows it too. Would you sing it? Alexander asked, looking at Maya. Maya shook her head quickly. I'm not much of a singer. Please, Mama, Sophia said. It makes me feel better when I'm sick. Under the combined weight of her daughter's request and Alexander's unexpectedly gentle attention, Maya's resistance crumbled. She began to sing softly in Spanish, her voice hesitant at first, but growing stronger as the familiar melody filled the room. When she finished, both Sophia and Alexander were quiet. Sophia had curled up against Maya's side, drowsy from medication and the comfort of the song. Alexander was watching Maya with an intensity that made her self-conscious. That was beautiful, he said quietly. What does it mean? Maya felt heat creep up her neck. It's about sorrow and love, mostly. The story of La Llorona, a woman who wanders rivers calling for her lost children. Sad, but beautiful. Most Mexican songs are. Sophia had dozed off again, her small body warm against Maya's side. Alexander stood carefully, not wanting to disturb her. I'll let you rest. Call if you need anything. But instead of leaving, he paused in the doorway. Maya. Yes? Last night when we were talking, I wanted to apologize if I made you uncomfortable. Maya's pulse quickened at the reminder of those charged moments by the window. You didn't. Good. Alexander's eyes held hers for a moment longer than necessary. Because I'd hate to complicate our arrangement. But the way he said it suggested he was already aware of the complications growing between them, and Maya realized she wasn't the only one fighting an increasingly difficult battle against attraction. That afternoon, while Sophia napped, Maya found herself restless. She'd spent weeks learning to navigate Alexander's world of charity galas and business dinners, but she still felt like a visitor in this pristine penthouse. The only space that felt truly comfortable was the kitchen, where she could cook familiar foods and feel connected to her real life. She was making arroz con pollo, comfort food for Sophia's recovery, when Alexander came home early from his meetings, drawn by the unexpected aromas filling his usually sterile apartment. What are you making? He appeared in the kitchen doorway, having loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves. Arroz con pollo, rice with chicken, my grandmother's recipe. Maya stirred the saffron-scented rice, aware of him watching her movements. I hope that's okay. I know you probably have specific food preferences. It smells incredible. Maya glanced at him, surprised by the honest hunger in his expression. When's the last time you had a home-cooked meal? Alexander considered this. I honestly can't remember. Then you're eating with us tonight. I wouldn't want to intrude on your time with Sophia. You're not intruding. Sophia likes you. Maya paused, then added more softly. I like you too. The admission hung in the air between them, more loaded than Maya had intended. Alexander stepped closer, close enough that she could see the way his eyes darkened when he looked at her. Maya. I know, she said quickly. I know this is supposed to be business. I'm not asking for anything to change. I wanted you to know. Alexander reached out and touched her face gently, his thumb brushing across her cheek. "You're making this very difficult." "Making what difficult?" "Remembering why this is a bad idea." Maya's breath caught. "Is it a bad idea?" Before Alexander could answer, Sophia's voice called from the living room. "Mama, I'm hungry." The moment shattered, and Alexander stepped back, his professional mask sliding into place. But Maya had seen the want in his eyes, the way his control had wavered for just a moment. "We should." "I should check on Sophia," Maya said. "Yes." But as they ate dinner together, Sophia chattering about her favorite books while Alexander listened with genuine interest, and Maya pretended her hands weren't shaking from their kitchen encounter, Maya realized their carefully constructed boundaries were beginning to blur. And the dangerous part was, she was no longer sure she wanted to maintain them. Chapter 7. Breaking Point. The crisis came 3 months into their marriage on a gray November evening that started with what should have been a routine business dinner. Maya had grown comfortable with these events, had learned to navigate the social currents of Alexander's world with increasing confidence. Tonight's dinner was for potential investors in Blackwell Industries' new green energy initiative. Important, but not particularly stressful. What Maya hadn't expected was Trevor Blackwell. Alexander's cousin arrived fashionably late to the restaurant, his smile predatory as he made his way to their table. He was handsome in the same sharp-featured way as Alexander. But where Alexander's intensity felt controlled and purposeful, Trevor radiated a kind of reckless ambition that made Maya instantly uneasy. Alexander. Cousin. Trevor's voice carried just enough family warmth to disguise the underlying tension. "And this must be the famous Maya. I've heard so much about you." Alexander's posture stiffened almost imperceptibly. "Trevor, I wasn't expecting you tonight. The Hendersons thought it would be nice for us to finally meet." Trevor's smile was aimed at Maya now, all charm and calculation. "After all, family should know each other, don't you think?" The dinner proceeded with surface politeness covering growing tension. Trevor regaled the table with stories designed to showcase Alexander's grandfather's disappointment in arranged marriages, his belief that business and personal relationships should remain separate. "Grandfather always said that marriages of convenience were the death of real intimacy," Trevor said, cutting into his steak with deliberate precision. He believed in authentic connections, not strategic partnerships. Maya felt Alexander tense beside her, but his voice remained level. Grandfather believed in many things, primarily that people should be judged by their character, not their circumstances. "Absolutely," Trevor agreed, "which is why I'm sure he'd be fascinated to learn about Maya's background. A single mother working multiple jobs, medical bills mounting up." His smile was sharp. Such a fortunate coincidence that Alexander appeared when he did. The implication was clear, and Maya felt her face burn with humiliation. Around the table, the other diners grew uncomfortably quiet, sensing the undercurrent of hostility. "I think," Maya began. "What Trevor finds fascinating," Alexander interrupted smoothly, "is that Maya chose to work 3 jobs rather than accept charity or government assistance. She put herself through college while raising a daughter and caring for her own mother, the kind of work ethic and dedication that built this family's success in the first place." But Trevor wasn't finished. "Of course, medical desperation makes people do interesting things. I suppose when your child's life is at stake, any arrangement might seem reasonable." Maya's wine glass trembled in her hand. She was dimly aware of Mrs. Henderson making uncomfortable small talk, of Alexander's jaw clenching with barely contained anger. But all she could hear was the echo of Caroline's words from months ago. Gold digger, desperate, using the sick child angle. "Excuse me," Maya said quietly, standing from the table. "I need some air." She made it to the restaurant's small outdoor patio before the tears started. The November cold bit through her dress, but she welcomed the sharp clarity it provided. Trevor's words had found their mark because they contained enough truth to wound. She had been desperate. She had agreed to this arrangement to save Sophia. The patio door opened behind her, and she expected Alexander. Instead, Trevor stepped outside, his expression softer but no less dangerous. "I hope I didn't upset you," he said, joining her at the railing overlooking the street. "That wasn't my intention." "Wasn't it?" Trevor smiled, and this time it seemed almost genuine. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you alone, away from Alexander's influence." Maya turned to face him fully. "What do you want?" "To help you." Trevor's voice was earnest, concerned. "Maya, you seem like a genuinely good person who's gotten caught up in something larger than you understand." "I understand our arrangement perfectly." Do you understand that Alexander's inheritance requirement expires in 3 months? That once he secures control of the company, your usefulness ends?" Maya's chest tightened. "We have a 2-year agreement." "Agreements can be modified, especially when one party holds all the power." Trevor stepped closer, his voice dropping to an intimate murmur. "He's already got what he needed from you. Public marriage, respectable wife, the appearance of stability. What happens to you and Sophia when he decides to move on to someone more suitable to his actual lifestyle?" The words hit like physical blows. Maya had tried not to think about the future, had focused on day-to-day survival and Sophia's health. But Trevor was articulating fears that had lurked in the back of her mind. Alexander wouldn't what? Honor a contract with someone who has no real power to enforce it? Maya, he's a businessman first. He makes calculated decisions based on profit and loss. You and Sophia were assets when he needed them. What are you now? Maya's hands shook, and she gripped the railing harder. "Even if that were true, what do you care?" "Because I can offer you something better." Trevor's voice grew urgent. "Real security, not just a 2-year arrangement. I'll match whatever Alexander promised you, plus a trust fund for Sophia's future. All you have to do is tell the truth, that this marriage is a business arrangement, that Alexander manipulated a desperate mother to get what he needed. You want me to destroy his inheritance claim. I want to save you from being discarded when you're no longer useful." Maya stared at Trevor, recognizing the skillful way he'd planted seeds of doubt and offered himself as salvation. But she also heard the underlying hunger in his voice, the way he spoke about Alexander with barely concealed resentment. "You don't care about me or Sophia," she said quietly. "You want to hurt Alexander." Trevor's mask slipped slightly. "Alexander has always had everything handed to him. The company, respect, our grandfather's love. Maybe it's time he learned what loss feels like. The way you've learned." For a moment, Trevor's facade cracked completely, revealing a bitterness so deep it was almost frightening. Then he smiled again, but this time it was cold. "Think about my offer, Maya, because whether you help me or not, Alexander's true nature will show itself soon enough. At least this way, you and Sophia won't be collateral damage." Trevor went back inside, leaving Maya alone with her swirling thoughts and growing panic. Was he right? Had she been naive to trust Alexander's word, to believe in the moments of genuine warmth she thought she'd seen? When Alexander found her 20 minutes later, her face was composed, but her eyes were red-rimmed from cold and unshed tears. "Are you all right?" His voice was gentle, concerned. Trevor can be difficult. "He made me an offer." Alexander went very still. "What kind of offer?" Maya told him everything, Trevor's accusations, his promises, his request that she publicly denounce their marriage as a sham. Alexander listened without interruption, his expression growing darker with each word. "And what did you tell him?" Alexander's voice was carefully controlled. "Nothing. I wanted to talk to you first." "How generous of you." The coldness in his tone made Maya step back. "Alexander, I wouldn't." Wouldn't what? Take a better offer when it's presented? Isn't that exactly what you did with me? The accusation hit like a slap. That's not fair. Fair? Alexander's control finally cracked. Fair is you keeping our arrangement confidential. Fair is you not entertaining offers from my enemies to destroy everything I've worked for. I didn't entertain anything. I told you about it. After sitting out here for 20 minutes considering it. Maya's own anger flared. Maybe I was considering how quickly you'd throw me away once you get what you need. Maybe Trevor was right about that part. Alexander's eyes blazed. If that's what you think of me, then maybe you should take his offer. They stared at each other across the growing chasm of mistrust and wounded pride. Maya felt the careful foundation they'd built crumbling, all the small intimacies and growing affection swept away by fear and suspicion. Maybe I should, she said quietly. Alexander nodded once, sharply. Then we understand each other. He walked back into the restaurant, leaving Maya alone with the bitter taste of a relationship destroyed by the very circumstances that had created it. But as she stood in the cold, Maya realized that what hurt most wasn't the dissolution of their business arrangement. It was the loss of the man she'd been falling in love with and the growing certainty that she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Chapter 8. Truth and Consequences. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat in Sophia's room, watching her daughter's peaceful breathing and trying to untangle the mess her life had become in the space of one disastrous evening. By dawn, she'd made her decision. Alexander was gone by the time she and Sophia got up, his usual pattern, but this morning it felt like avoidance rather than routine. Maya waited until Sophia was settled with her morning lessons, then called the one person who might have answers. "Patricia, it's Maya. I need to see Alexander's original contract with his grandfather's estate." Patricia Webb's voice was carefully neutral. "That's confidential information, Mrs. Blackwell. I'm his wife, and I need to understand what I've gotten myself into." A pause. "I can't share privileged documents without Alexander's permission." "Then get his permission." Another pause. "He's in meetings all day. Boston trip, remember?" Maya closed her eyes. Alexander hadn't mentioned any Boston trip. He was avoiding her, probably regretting ever involving her in his complicated family dynamics. "Patricia, please. Trevor approached me last night with some very specific claims about the inheritance timeline and Alexander's intentions. I need to know what's true." The line was quiet for so long Maya thought Patricia had hung up. "Meet me at my office in an hour," Patricia said finally. "And Maya, don't trust anything Trevor Blackwell tells you. He's been trying to destroy Alexander since they were children." Patricia's law office in Midtown was all glass and steel, intimidating in its expense and precision. Maya felt underdressed in jeans and a sweater, but Patricia's expression was unexpectedly sympathetic as she gestured Maya into her private conference room. "Coffee?" "Just answers." Patricia spread several documents across the mahogany table. William Blackwell's will is complex, but the relevant clause is straightforward enough. Alexander must be married by his 35th birthday to inherit controlling interest in Blackwell Industries. Which was 6 weeks ago. Yes, but there's a provision for good faith efforts. If Alexander can demonstrate he was actively seeking marriage with serious intent, the board can grant a 6-month extension. And our marriage qualified? Your marriage saved Alexander's inheritance. Yes. Patricia's expression grew more serious. But Maya, there's something else you need to understand. The clause doesn't just require marriage. It requires marriage that lasts at least 2 years, or Alexander forfeits everything. Maya's stomach dropped. He didn't tell me that part. He probably didn't want you to feel trapped. But if you divorce before the 2-year mark, for any reason, Trevor inherits everything. The implications crashed over Maya like a cold wave. Alexander couldn't let her go, even if he wanted to. She wasn't just his convenient wife, she was his insurance policy, bound to him by his desperate need to preserve his grandfather's legacy. So, when Trevor offered me a better deal, he was offering you money to destroy Alexander completely. Not just the inheritance, but his life's work, thousands of jobs, everything William Blackwell built. Maya sank into her chair. And Alexander thinks I was seriously considering it. Were you? Maya looked up sharply. No. I was scared and hurt and confused, but I wouldn't. I could never. Patricia's expression softened. Then you need to tell him that, before his pride and Trevor's manipulation destroy something real. What do you mean, something real? Patricia smiled slightly. Maya, I've worked for Alexander for 8 years. I've never seen him the way he is with you and Sophia. Relaxed, genuinely happy, protective in a way that has nothing to do with business strategy. But last night he was terrified. Trevor found his weak spot and exploited it perfectly. Alexander's used to people wanting things from him. Money, status, connections. The idea that you might want those things too, from someone else. It threatened everything he started to believe about your relationship. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. So, what do I do? Fight for him. Show him that you're not going anywhere, that your commitment isn't about money or security. Show him it's about him. Maya left Patricia's office with determination burning in her chest. She had one chance to salvage this, to prove to Alexander that she was choosing him. Not his money, not his arrangement, but him. But first, she had a phone call to make. Trevor, it's Maya. I want to take your deal. Trevor's voice was immediately alert, hungry. I knew you were smart. When can we meet? Tonight, but I want to record our conversation. For my protection. Of course, my apartment at 8? Your apartment at 8. Maya hung up and immediately called the second number on her list. Detective Rodriguez? It's Maya. I need a favor. That evening, Maya sat in Trevor's expensively appointed living room with a wire provided by her cousin Miguel, a detective with NYPD who'd been happy to help expose what sounded like attempted bribery and corporate sabotage. So, you're ready to go public with the truth about your marriage? Trevor poured wine with satisfied confidence. I'm ready to tell the truth, yes. Maya accepted the wine, but didn't drink. But first, I want to understand exactly what you're asking me to do. For the next hour, Trevor laid out his plan in detail. How Maya would testify that Alexander had manipulated her desperation. How she'd reveal their marriage as a business transaction. How her testimony would invalidate Alexander's inheritance claim and transfer control to Trevor. And in exchange, you'll pay me how much? Maya asked. $5 million, plus the trust fund for Sophia. That's very generous, especially since you're asking me to lie. Trevor's eyes sharpened. Lie? About Alexander manipulating me, about our marriage being purely business? Maya set down her wine glass and looked at Trevor directly. Because the truth is, I'm falling in love with my husband, and I think he's falling in love with me too. Trevor's face went cold. Maya, you're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was listening to you try to destroy a good man because you're jealous of everything he represents. Maya stood up. Alexander saved my daughter's life. He's protected us, cared for us, treated us like family. And you want me to betray him, because you can't stand that your grandfather saw his true character. You don't understand what you're giving up. I understand perfectly. I'm giving up money I never earned for a man I love and a family I want to protect. Trevor's mask slipped completely, revealing a rage that made Maya step backward. You stupid bitch. You think Alexander actually cares about you. You're a convenience, a placeholder until he can find someone suitable. That's enough. Alexander's voice cut through the room like a blade. Maya turned to see him standing in Trevor's doorway, his face a mask of controlled fury. Behind him stood 2 men in suits she recognized as building security. Alexander. Trevor's voice was suddenly uncertain. "I didn't expect—" "I'm sure you didn't." Alexander stepped into the room, his eyes never leaving Trevor's face. "Unfortunately for you, Maya called me 3 hours ago and explained exactly what you were planning." Maya's heart stuttered. "You knew I was here?" "I've known since this afternoon. Patricia told me about your conversation, and you called me before you called Trevor." Alexander's expression softened as he looked at her. "Did you really think I'd let you face him alone?" Trevor looked between them, understanding dawning. "The wire? You're recording this?" "Every word," Maya confirmed, "including your bribery attempts and your plans to commit corporate fraud." The security guards moved forward as Trevor began to back toward his balcony doors. "This isn't over, Alexander. I'll find another way." "No, Trevor, this is exactly over." Alexander's voice was final. "Security footage, recorded conversation, attempted bribery of my wife. The board will have everything they need to permanently bar you from any claim to Blackwell Industries." As security escorted Trevor out of his own apartment, Alexander turned to Maya, his expression unreadable. "Are you all right?" Maya nodded, suddenly overwhelmed by everything that had happened. "Alexander, I need you to know, I was never going to take his deal. I called you first because I wanted you to hear what he was planning, but I was never—" "I know." Alexander stepped closer, his hands gentle as they framed her face. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I doubted you. Sorry I let fear make me cruel. Sorry I didn't trust what I knew about your character. You were protecting yourself. I understand that. Do you?" Alexander's thumb brushed away a tear Maya didn't realize had fallen. "Because I need you to understand something else. This isn't about the inheritance anymore, Maya. It's not about the arrangement or the timeline or any of the practical reasons we started this." Maya's heart began to race. "What is it about?" "It's about the fact that I'm in love with you." Alexander's voice was rough with emotion. "It's about Sophia becoming the daughter I never knew I wanted, and you becoming the woman I can't imagine living without. It's about this fake marriage becoming the most real thing in my life." Maya felt her world shift on its axis. "Alexander, I know it's complicated. I know this isn't what you signed up for, but I need you to know—" Maya silenced him with a kiss, pouring 3 months of suppressed longing and growing love into the connection between them. Alexander responded immediately, his arms pulling her closer as if he could erase the doubt and fear of the past 24 hours through pure physical connection. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "I love you too," Maya whispered. "I've been fighting it for weeks, trying to keep things professional. But I love you. And Sophia adores you. This isn't about money or security anymore. It's about family." Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "Are you sure? Because once I believed that, once I let myself hope, I don't think I could survive losing you." Maya smiled, feeling lighter than she had in months. "Then it's a good thing you're not going to lose me." Epilogue. 2 years later. The morning sun streamed through the windows of their new house in Westchester, a place with a proper yard for Sophia to play in, close enough to the city for Alexander's work, but far enough away to feel like a real home rather than a showcase. Maya woke to the sound of laughter drifting up from the kitchen, followed by the unmistakable aroma of pancakes. She found Alexander and Sophia at the stove, both wearing matching aprons that said "Chef in Training," flour dusting their hair and countertops. "Mama!" Sophia beamed, her face bright with health and happiness. "Alexander's teaching me to flip pancakes." "I can see that." Maya surveyed the cheerful chaos with amusement. "And how's that going?" "We've only dropped 2 on the floor," Alexander admitted, grinning as he helped Sophia navigate the spatula. "I'd call that progress." Maya wrapped her arms around Alexander from behind, breathing in the scent of his cologne mixed with maple syrup. "Good morning, husband." "Good morning, wife." Alexander leaned back into her embrace, and Maya marveled at how natural this felt. The easy domesticity, the genuine affection, the sense of belonging she'd never thought she'd find. Their original 2-year contract had expired 3 months ago. Maya had signed the divorce papers Alexander's lawyers prepared, then immediately tore them up. "I didn't marry you for a contract," she'd told him that day. "I married you for forever." Alexander had produced a small velvet box from his pocket. "Then maybe we should do this properly," he'd said, dropping to one knee in their living room while Sophia squealed with excitement. "Maya Rodriguez Blackwell, will you marry me again? This time for love, for real, for the rest of our lives." The second wedding had been small, just family and close friends in the garden of their new house, with Sophia as maid of honor and Patricia Webb as witness. No contracts, no arrangements, no ulterior motives. Just 2 people who'd found unexpected love in the most unlikely circumstances. "Mama, guess what?" Sophia's voice brought Maya back to the present. "Alexander said we can get a puppy." Maya raised an eyebrow at her husband. "Did he now?" Alexander had the grace to look slightly guilty. "She's been very persuasive, and the yard is certainly big enough." "Can we, Mama? Please?" Sophia's eyes were bright with hope and perfect health. No trace of the frail child who'd needed heart surgery 2 years ago. Maya looked at her daughter, at the man who'd become her father in all the ways that mattered, at the life they'd built from desperation and business arrangements and unexpected love. "I suppose we could visit the animal shelter this weekend," she said, and Sophia's whoop of joy was worth the chaos a puppy would undoubtedly bring. Later, after Sophia had left for school and Alexander for his office, Maya sat in their sun-filled breakfast nook and reflected on the strange path that had brought them here. What had started as a midnight bargain between strangers had become the love story she'd never dared to dream of. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. "Dinner at Rosetta's tonight? Same table where we had our first real date?" Maya smiled, remembering that evening 6 months into their arrangement when Alexander had taken her to the small Italian restaurant in Little Italy, not for a business dinner or social obligation, but simply because he wanted to spend time with her. "Only if you promise to order the tiramisu," she texted back. "Deal. I love you, Mrs. Blackwell." "I love you too." And as Maya prepared for her day, her work at the Literacy Foundation Alexander had helped her establish, her volunteer hours at the Children's Hospital where Sophia had been treated, her evening with the family that had grown from arrangement to reality, she marveled at how completely her life had transformed. Sometimes the best bargains, she'd learned, were the ones that ended up costing nothing and giving you everything. Outside, autumn was painting the trees in shades of gold and crimson, and Maya could hear the echo of Sophia's laughter as she played with friends in the neighborhood where she was no longer the sick kid, but simply the bright, beloved daughter of the couple who'd shown that love could bloom in the most unexpected soil. The dangerous bargain sealed at midnight had become the foundation for a lifetime of mornings like this one. Ordinary, beautiful, and filled with the kind of love Maya had once thought existed only in fairy tales. But, as Alexander liked to remind her, the best fairy tales were the ones that turned out to be true.